All right, buckle up for your personalized deep dive. We're going deep with this one.
Oh, yeah.
You gave us YouTube videos with titles like Unsolved Mysteries,
Mm-hmm.
Theories and Mysteries,
All right.
even Creepiest Mysteries That Were Finally Solved. So get this.
Okay.
We're talking ancient secrets, unexplained phenomena,
Right.
true crime, and a sprinkle of solved cases for good measure. Think you're ready for this whirlwind?
Absolutely. We'll untangle all these threads together,
Yeah.
separate fact from speculation, and hopefully uncover some really intriguing insights along the way.
I love it. Okay, let's kick things off with ancient mysteries.
Okay.
The kind that make you wonder how people figured things out way back then.
Right.
We're talking Neanderthal structures, a lost continent under the ocean.
Wow.
Even an ancient whale with legs. Talk about rewriting history.
Yeah, these discoveries really challenge what we thought we knew about the past.
For sure.
Take the Neanderthal structures in Brunico Cave, France.
Okay.
These aren't just random rocks. We're talking carefully arranged stalagmites in rings deep inside this cave. And get this,
Okay.
they date back 176,000 years.
That's before Homo sapiens even arrived in Europe, right? So what were they doing with these elaborate structures? Like, were they living there?
Well, that is the million-dollar question, isn't it?
Yeah.
Some researchers think they might have been used for rituals,
Oh, interesting.
maybe even symbolic representations of the cosmos.
Really?
This level of complexity really changes our understanding of Neanderthal capabilities. It suggests they weren't just, simple tool makers.
That's incredible. It's mind-blowing to think we're still learning so much about our ancient ancestors.
Totally.
And what about this lost continent under the Indian Ocean? I mean, how do you even lose a whole continent?
It sounds pretty wild, right?
Yeah.
But scientists found these zircon crystals on the island of Mauritius
Oh, okay.
that are billions of years older than the island itself.
What?
So the theory is that these crystals are like remnants
Oh, okay.
of a microcontinent that existed between Madagascar and India,
Oh, wow.
which broke apart millions of years ago.
So it's like finding a piece of a puzzle we didn't even know was missing.
Exactly.
That's amazing. And speaking of piecing together the past,
Yeah.
let's move on to sea hens.
Okay.
This one sounds straight out of a myth, honestly.
It's a captivating structure for sure.
Yeah.
Picture this. An upturned tree stump
Okay.
encircled by 55 timber posts dating back 4,000 years,
Wow.
appearing suddenly on this beach in England.
That's wild.
It captured the public's imagination,
Right.
but it also sparked this huge debate about how to handle such a significant find.
I remember reading about that. There was so much controversy surrounding its excavation, wasn't there?
There was. The local community felt excluded from the decision-making process,
Oh, right.
and it really highlighted the ethical complexities of archaeological discoveries.
Yeah.
It raises questions about, who has the right to excavate and study these ancient sites,
Right.
and how to balance scientific inquiry with respect for local traditions and beliefs.
That's a really good point. It's a reminder that history isn't just about, facts and figures. It's also about people and their connection to the past.
Absolutely.
Speaking of connections, how about that ancient whale with legs?
Oh, yeah.
That's got to be one of the cool evolutionary finds ever.
It really is. It's a stunning example of those transitional fossils.
Yeah.
They give us a glimpse into how whales evolved
Yeah.
from land mammals to the ocean giants we know today.
Wow.
The fossils, they were discovered in Egypt's Whale Valley,
Okay.
show hind limbs that were once used for walking,
Really?
but they gradually became smaller and then eventually disappeared as these whales adapted to life in the water.
That's just like, it's like seeing evolution in action. What do you think were the main environmental pressures that drove this dramatic transformation?
Well, it was likely a combination of factors, right?
Sure.
Perhaps the ancient whales were drawn to the abundance of food in the ocean,
Right.
or they were seeking refuge from predators on land.
That makes sense.
Over millions of years, natural selection would have favored those with traits that made them better suited for aquatic life.
It's amazing to think about the vastness of time
I know.
and the incredible changes life on Earth has undergone. Speaking of incredible feats,
Okay.
let's jump to ancient China
All right.
and talk about Zhang Heng's earthquake device, a seismometer invented in 132 AD.
That's crazy.
That's centuries ahead of its time.
It really is. It's a testament to human ingenuity.
Yeah.
Imagine this. A bronze vessel
Okay.
adorned with 8 dragons, each holding a ball in its mouth.
Okay, I'm picturing it.
When an earthquake occurred,
Yeah.
a ball would drop into the mouth of a toad below,
Whoa.
indicating the direction of the tremor.
That's an insane level of precision for something created so long ago.
It is.
Do you think we've lost some of that ancient wisdom, or are we simply rediscovering it through modern science?
That's a really fascinating question.
Yeah.
While we've undoubtedly made, incredible strides in science and technology, it's important to remember that ancient civilizations had a deep understanding of the natural world.
That's true.
Perhaps by studying their methods and innovations, we can gain new insights and inspiration for solving those modern challenges we face today.
It's like looking back to move forward, combining ancient wisdom with modern technology.
I like that.
But just as fascinating are the ancient mysteries we haven't cracked yet.
Definitely.
Like that Japanese project in the 70s that tried to rebuild a pyramid
Oh, right, yeah,
using, only primitive tools and techniques.
right.
And they hit a wall.
They did.
They really struggled to replicate the sheer scale and precision of the original pyramids.
Yeah.
It just highlights the sophistication of those ancient Egyptian engineers. So even with all our modern know-how, we're still stretching our heads about how they achieved such incredible feats of construction.
Pretty much.
What do you think they might have figured out that we haven't yet rediscovered?
Well, there are theories about everything.
Right.
From advanced mathematics and astronomy to the use of sound and vibration in construction.
Wow, it makes you wonder what other knowledge is out there just hidden, waiting to be unearthed.
Definitely.
Speaking of hidden knowledge, what about the Indescript, this ancient writing system
Right.
used by one of the world's earliest urban civilizations?
It's fascinating.
It's like a locked door to the past.
Exactly. We have these intriguing inscriptions on seals and pottery,
Yeah.
but we can't figure out the code. Imagine what stories they hold.
It must be so frustrating for researchers
It is.
to have all this potential knowledge right there but not be able to access it.
Absolutely.
So what are the main challenges in actually deciphering the Indescript?
Well, for one, the inscriptions are super short,
Uh,
which gives us very limited context.
right.
We also haven't found any bilingual text
Uh-huh.
that could act as a sort of Rosetta Stone.
Oh, that makes sense.
And to make things even trickier, we're not even sure if it's a phonetic or logographic system,
Oh, wow.
which makes it even harder to decode.
It's a puzzle that just continues to fascinate and frustrate researchers, doesn't it?
It does.
But that's part of the allure of ancient mysteries, isn't it? The thrill of the chase,
Oh, yeah,
the possibility of uncovering something truly groundbreaking.
definitely.
Now, are you ready to move on to some truly unexplained phenomena? Get ready for stories that will make you question everything you thought you knew.
Let's do it.
All right, let's dive in.
Let's dive in. From alleged Bigfoot encounters to those mysterious disappearances, these stories really push the boundaries of what we consider possible.
Okay, so first up is a story that sounds like it came straight from a campfire legend. Albert Osman's claimed abduction by a Bigfoot family back in 1924.
Oh, yeah?
Held captive for a week, observing their habits and family life. It sounds like a tall tale.
Right.
Or maybe a terrifying encounter.
Osman's account is incredibly detailed, which is part of what makes it so intriguing.
Yeah.
He described the Bigfoot family's physical characteristics, their communication, even their diet.
Really?
It's either a remarkably elaborate hoax
Right.
or a genuinely unsettling experience.
I can see why this story continues to capture people's imaginations.
Totally.
What are some of the arguments for and against the validity of his claims?
Well, skeptics will point to inconsistencies in his story
Oh, okay.
and the lack of any physical evidence.
Right.
But believers will highlight the level of detail in his account
Okay.
and his insistence on the truth of his experience, even decades later.
It's a reminder that sometimes the most compelling mysteries are those without definitive answers.
Definitely.
Speaking of unanswered questions, the disappearance of Lawrence Sullivan is a classic missing child case.
Oh, yeah.
It still haunts investigators to this day.
It's a heartbreaking story.
It is.
A 3-year-old boy vanishes while on a trip with his uncle in the vast Nevada desert in 1958.
Oh, wow.
His cap was found uphill from where he was last seen.
Okay.
But despite extensive searches, no other trace of him was ever found.
It's a parent's worst nightmare.
It is.
What are some of the prevailing theories about what might have happened to Lawrence?
Well, theories range from him wandering off and succumbing to those harsh desert conditions
Yeah.
to a possible abduction.
Right.
Even foul play by the uncle was considered,
Oh, wow.
though no evidence ever really supported that theory.
The lack of closure makes this case especially tragic.
It does.
And then there's the equally perplexing disappearance of Roger Tyndall.
Oh, right.
Another young boy who vanished without a trace.
Yeah, in 1980, 9-year-old Roger was fishing with his father in California
Okay.
when he just disappeared.
Wow.
No signs of a struggle, no witnesses.
Really?
Just an empty spot on the riverbank.
It's like he just vanished into thin air.
It really is.
The searchers even tried a unique approach, playing recordings of Roger's favorite TV show in the woods, hoping to draw him out.
I remember that.
Sadly, it was to no avail.
Yeah,
These cases are so difficult to comprehend.
they are.
What are some of the main challenges that investigators face when dealing with missing child cases, especially those without any leads to follow?
One of the biggest hurdles is the lack of time.
Right.
With each passing hour, the chances of finding a missing child safe
Of course.
diminish
Yeah.
significantly.
Yeah.
Also, the vastness and unpredictability of those natural environments
Right.
can make searches incredibly difficult.
Yeah, absolutely.
And in cases like these, where there's no evidence of foul play or abduction,
Yeah.
it's even harder to determine, a search area or follow any kind of trail.
It's a race against time with so many factors working against them.
It is.
Okay, let's shift gears a bit and talk about a figure who really straddles that line between scientific brilliance and just enigmatic mystery.
Okay.
Nikola Tesla.
Oh, Tesla.
Tesla was a visionary inventor.
He was.
Someone who pushed the boundaries of science.
For sure.
But his life and his work were also shrouded in secrecy
Mm-hmm.
and a lot of controversy.
Yeah.
One such example is his infamous earthquake machine.
Oh, right.
A device that he claimed could
Yeah.
generate these powerful vibrations.
Really powerful.
Capable of shaking buildings to their foundations.
Wow.
I've heard stories about this. Didn't he claim to have tested it, causing a building to shake
Yes.
so violently that people actually thought it was a real earthquake?
He did. According to Tesla, he attached this small oscillating device to a building,
Okay.
and as he increased the frequency,
Yeah.
the vibrations intensified,
Wow.
eventually causing the structure to shake dramatically.
While some believe that he might have stumbled upon a dangerous secret,
Right?
others just dismiss it as, an exaggeration or a misunderstanding of the forces at play.
It's hard to say for sure.
It sounds like something straight out of a science fiction novel.
It does.
Do we have any actual concrete evidence to support or refute his claim?
Unfortunately, no.
Oh, really?
Tesla was notoriously secretive about his inventions,
Oh.
often destroying his notes and plans.
Wow.
While we know he was brilliant,
Yeah.
with a deep understanding of electricity and magnetism,
Uh-huh.
the true nature of his earthquake machine remains a tantalizing mystery.
It makes you wonder what other secrets he might have taken to his grave.
It really does.
And speaking of mysteries that reach beyond our planet,
Okay.
what about Tesla's claims of receiving radio signals from space in the late 1800s?
Ah, yes.
This is another story that has fueled endless speculation.
It has.
While experimenting with his wireless transmission technology, Tesla reported picking up this repeating signal that he believed originated from Mars.
Wow.
He even speculated about the possibility of intelligent life on the other planets.
That's a bold claim for the late 1800s.
It is. Was he simply misinterpreting natural phenomena, or was he truly onto something groundbreaking?
It's impossible to say for sure.
Really?
At the time, radio technology was still in its infancy,
Right.
and Tesla's equipment was highly sensitive.
Okay.
It's possible he picked up interference from a natural source,
Like what?
like solar flares
Oh.
or atmospheric disturbances.
Interesting.
However, some argue that his observations
Yeah.
could have been the first detection of what we now know as cosmic radio waves.
That's a fascinating possibility. It just goes to show how even seemingly outlandish claims
Yeah.
can sometimes turn out to be ahead of their time.
Absolutely.
Okay, are you ready to dive into some truly bizarre events?
Absolutely. Let's explore those stories that make you question whether you've stepped into an alternate reality.
Well, then hold on to your hats.
Okay.
Because we're about to enter the world of the Russian elites with glowing eyes.
All right.
It sounds like something straight out of a movie.
Imagine this. You're at this exclusive nightclub in Russia,
Okay.
surrounded by these wealthy socialites and celebrities.
Okay, I'm there.
The lights go out,
Okay.
and when they come back on, several people in the crowd have glowing eyes.
What? Really? Glowing eyes. That's crazy. What are some of the theories floating around about this strange event?
Well, some speculate that it was a prank, perhaps involving UV reactive contact lenses
Oh.
or some kind of special effects trickery.
Right.
Others believe it could be a case of mass hysteria
Oh, interesting.
or a shared hallucination triggered by the darkness in the atmosphere of the event.
Yeah, that makes sense.
And of course, some lean towards the more paranormal explanation,
Right.
suggesting it might be evidence of something truly unexplained.
It's one of those stories that makes you wonder if there's more to our world than we can perceive with our five senses.
Definitely.
Speaking of stories that make you question reality,
All right.
let's talk about the tragic case of Ronnie McNutt, who live-streamed his suicide on Facebook in 2020.
This event was a stark reminder of the dark side of social media
Yeah,
and the challenges of content moderation.
it really was.
The video quickly went viral despite Facebook's efforts to remove it,
Yeah.
and its spread sparked outrage and concern over the platform's handling of graphic content.
It was a horrific tragedy
It was.
that really highlighted the need for greater awareness of mental health issues
Yeah,
and the responsibility of these social media companies to protect their vulnerable users.
absolutely. It sparked important conversations about the impact of social media on mental health,
Mm-hmm.
the need for better content moderation policy,
For sure.
and the ethical implications of sharing and consuming sensitive content online.
And sadly, Ronnie's story isn't unique. The case of Isaac Cappy, an actor and musician who became deeply immersed in conspiracy theories,
Oh, right.
ended in a similar tragedy.
Cappy's story is a cautionary tale about the potential dangers of getting lost in that world of conspiracy theories,
It is.
especially when they lead to paranoia, isolation, and a disconnect from reality.
He made very public accusations against several Hollywood figures,
I remember that.
claiming they were involved in all these nefarious activities.
Right.
His behavior became increasingly erratic and unstable,
It did.
ultimately culminating in his tragic death.
It highlights the importance of critical thinking,
Yeah,
seeking out critical sources of information,
absolutely.
and being aware of the potential psychological impact of spending too much time in online echo chambers,
Right.
where misinformation and unsubstantiated claims can thrive.
It's a reminder that we all have a responsibility to be mindful of our online activity
Extreme.
and to cultivate a healthy skepticism
Yeah.
when we're encountering sensationalized or unverified information.
Well said. Now, for a mystery that's a bit less tragic but equally bizarre,
Okay.
let's talk about the U.S. government's massive stockpile of cheese.
Wait, the government is hoarding cheese? Why?
Believe it or not, it's true. They're storing over 1.4 billion pounds of cheese in climate-controlled caves in Missouri.
What? 1.4 billion pounds? That's an incredible amount of cheese. What are they planning to do with all of it?
It's a bit of a mystery.
Really?
The government will periodically release some of it into the market,
Okay.
but the stockpile remains enormous.
It raises questions about agricultural policy, food waste, and the long-term consequences of government intervention in the market.
It does.
It makes you wonder if there's a secret government plan to build a giant cheese sculpture or host the world's largest cheese fondue party.
Now, that's an idea I can get behind.
Right.
But speaking of government policies with perhaps unintended consequences,
Okay.
let's talk about lotteries.
All right.
They're often marketed as a chance to win big and escape financial hardship,
Yeah.
but they've also been criticized for disproportionately targeting low-income communities.
It's a complex issue, for sure.
It is.
Some people view lotteries as a harmless form of entertainment,
Right.
while others see them as exploitative,
Yeah.
preying on people's hopes for a better life.
It raises important questions about the role of government in regulating gambling,
Mm-hmm.
the ethics of marketing hope to those who are most vulnerable,
Right.
and the broader issue of income inequality.
It's a reminder that even seemingly innocuous activities
Yeah.
can have these far-reaching social and economic implications.
Absolutely.
Okay, are you ready to take a break from the unanswered questions for a
Yeah.
bit and explore some mysteries that were actually solved?
I'm all for it. It's always satisfying to see how science, investigation,
Yeah.
and a bit of luck can sometimes come together to crack even the most perplexing cases.
Let's start with the Lady Be Good, a World War II bomber that vanished over Libya in 1943,
Oh, yeah?
only to be rediscovered in the desert 15 years later.
The disappearance of the Lady Be Good was a mystery that baffled investigators for years.
It
The
did.
plane just vanished without a trace,
Wow.
leaving behind all these unanswered questions.
But in 1958, the wreckage was discovered in the Libyan desert.
That's right.
Remarkably well preserved
It was.
after all those years.
Yeah.
And finally, the mystery of what happened to the Lady Be Good was solved.
The crew had gotten lost in a sandstorm, ejected from the plane when it ran out of fuel,
Oh, wow.
and tragically died while trying to walk to safety
Oh, no.
across that unforgiving desert.
It's a tragic story, but at least their families finally received some answers.
They did.
After years of uncertainty.
And speaking of mysteries solved by a combination of, scientific observation and persistence,
Okay.
remember those sailing stones in Death Valley?
Oh, yeah, those rocks that just seem to move across the dry lake bed all on their own,
Yeah.
leaving those long, mysterious trails.
It was a puzzle that stumped scientists for decades.
It was.
For years, people came up with all sorts of theories, magnetic fields,
Right.
alien intervention,
I remember that.
even cranksters.
But it turned out that the explanation was much more down to earth, right?
It was. In 2013, a team of researchers,
Yeah.
using time-lapse photography and GPS trackers,
Wow.
finally cracked the case.
So what was it?
It turns out a combination of thin ice sheets forming on the lake bed during winter
Okay.
and strong winds pushing the rocks across that slippery surface.
Wow.
That was responsible for their seemingly magical movement.
Nature always finds a way to surprise us. It's a reminder that even the most baffling phenomena can often be explained through careful observation and scientific inquiry.
Absolutely. It's a testament to the power of human curiosity and our drive to understand the world around us.
Now, for a mystery that took a much darker turn, but was ultimately solved through diligent investigation,
Right?
let's revisit the case of June Lin.
In 2012, this gruesome video
Oh, yeah.
titled One Lunatic, One Ice Pick
I remember that.
surfaced online depicting the murder and dismemberment of an Asian male.
Right.
It was a horrific crime that shocked the world.
It was.
And because the video was so graphic, many people initially believed it was a hoax.
Sadly, it was all too real.
It was.
The victim was identified as June Lin, a student in Montreal, Canada.
Right.
The perpetrator, Luca Magnotta,
Yeah.
was quickly identified and tracked down in Germany after an international manhunt.
This case highlighted the dark side of the internet
It did.
and the disturbing ease
Right.
with which violent content can spread online.
For sure.
But it also showcased the power of international cooperation and law enforcement's ability to utilize technology to track down criminals.
It's a stark reminder that the digital world, while offering these incredible opportunities for connection and communication,
Yeah,
can also harbor dark corners where horrific crimes can occur
it's true.
and be broadcast to the world.
And speaking of mysteries that captivated the public's imagination
Okay.
and sparked endless speculation,
Right.
who could forget about the face on Mars?
Oh, the Fate on Mars, that iconic image captured by the Viking orbiter in 1975.
That's the one.
It seemed to show a face-like formation on the Martian surface.
It was a photo that launched 1,000 conspiracy theories.
It was.
People saw a face staring back at them from Mars,
Right.
and their minds raced with possibilities.
Oh, yeah.
An ancient civilization,
Right.
a message from extraterrestrials,
What else?
a sign that we're not alone in the universe.
It's crazy.
Right.
But as with many mysteries, the answer turned out to be less exciting,
It did.
but no less fascinating.
Higher resolution images, taken by subsequent missions to Mars,
Yeah.
revealed that the face on Mars
Uh-huh.
was simply a natural rock formation
Really?
shaped by wind and erosion over millions of years.
It was a classic case of pareidolia, our brain's tendency to see patterns and familiar shapes, even in random or ambiguous data.
Exactly.
It's a good reminder to approach those extraordinary claims with a healthy dose of skepticism
Definitely.
and to always seek out further evidence before jumping to conclusions.
Absolutely.
And on that note, let's talk about a case that highlights the importance of due process
Okay.
and the dangers of rushing to judgment.
All right.
The Centennial Olympic Park bombing in 1996.
This case is a stark reminder
Yeah.
of how quickly public opinion can shift
Yeah.
and how easily an individual's life can be upended
Oh, for sure.
by false accusations.
Richard Jewell, a security guard at the park,
Yes.
was initially hailed as a hero for helping to evacuate people from the area after the bomb exploded.
Right.
But then, based on really flimsy evidence and speculation,
Yeah.
he became the prime suspect.
The media frenzy surrounding his case was relentless,
Oh, it was.
portraying him as a villain before he had even been formally charged with a crime.
It's a classic example of trial by media,
It is.
where an individual's reputation is tarnished based on unverified information and sensationalized reporting.
Thankfully, Jewell was eventually cleared.
He was.
And the real bomber, Eric Rudolph, was apprehended years later.
It's a cautionary tale about the importance of protecting the presumption of innocence
Yes.
and allowing investigations to run their course before passing judgment.
Well said.
Well, we've certainly covered a lot of ground today.
We have.
From ancient mysteries to unsolved cases to bizarre events that make you question everything you thought you knew.
It's been a lot.
It's been a whirlwind of information, and I'm curious to hear what stood out to you the most.
It's hard to choose just one. I think what strikes me is how these mysteries,
Yeah.
whether they're solved or unsolved,
Right?
really reflect our innate human desire
Mm-hmm.
to understand the world around us.
Totally.
They spark our curiosity, challenge our assumptions,
Yeah,
and remind us that there's still so much we don't know.
I completely agree.
Yeah.
And I think it's that sense of wonder and the pursuit of knowledge
It is.
that keeps us engaged, keeps us learning,
Absolutely.
and keeps us pushing the boundaries of what we think is possible. It really is amazing how these mysteries, even the ones with those, straightforward explanations, can still captivate us.
Oh,
But
absolutely.
let's shift gears back to those unsolved mysteries.
Okay.
The ones that leave us with, way more questions than answers.
All right.
We were talking about the case of Robert Stack,
Mhm.
who vanished from a parking lot in Missouri back in 2003.
That case is a classic example of a disappearance that it defies logic.
It does.
His car was found abandoned.
Right,
The security footage was mysteriously taped over.
right.
And there were absolutely no witnesses.
It's like he just stepped into another dimension or something.
It's like he just vanished into thin air.
It's chilling to think that someone can just disappear without a trace,
It is.
leaving behind so many unanswered questions for, their loved ones and investigators.
Yeah, it's tough.
What are some of the challenges that investigators face when dealing with a case like this, where
Yeah.
there are basically no leads to follow?
Well, In cases like this, the biggest obstacle is the lack of information.
Right.
Without any witnesses, forensic evidence, or a clear motive,
Yeah.
it's incredibly difficult to determine what happened or where to even begin to focus the investigation.
Right.
It becomes a lot like searching for a needle in a haystack.
It must be so frustrating for both the investigators and the family who are left with that agonizing uncertainty.
Oh, it is. It's incredibly difficult for everyone involved.
Okay, switching gears to a different kind of mystery.
All right?
Let's talk about the Joy of Satan Ministries.
This is a really disturbing example
It is.
of how extremist groups can utilize the internet to spread their ideology.
Yeah, it's scary how easy it is for these groups to reach a wide audience online.
It is. This organization blends theistic Satanism with neo-Nazi ideology,
Really?
creating a particularly disturbing and dangerous mix.
Wow, that's intense.
It is. Their website serves as a platform for spreading hate speech, conspiracy theories, and all sorts of extremist propaganda.
It's unsettling to think that this kind of content is so readily available online.
It is.
And it could be influencing, vulnerable individuals, especially young people who might not have the critical thinking skills to discern fact from fiction.
Right, it's a big concern.
What are some of the challenges in combating online extremism and hate speech? I mean, is it even possible to control it?
It's a complex issue, and there are no easy answers.
Yeah.
One challenge is just the sheer volume of content online.
Oh, for sure.
It's just impossible to monitor and police everything that's being posted.
Right. It's like trying to, empty the ocean with a bucket.
Exactly.
Another challenge is the anonymity that the internet provides,
Right.
which makes it very difficult to track down those individuals who are spreading this hate speech.
And then there's also the issue of free speech and censorship.
Oh, right.
Where do you draw that line?
It's a very delicate balance, trying to protect free speech while also preventing the spread of this harmful content.
It is.
Okay, let's try to lighten the mood a bit
Okay.
with a mystery that's more bizarre than unsettling.
Right.
The case of the Russian elites with glowing eyes.
Oh, that one.
This story sounds like it came straight out of a science fiction movie.
It does. Witnesses at a high-profile nightclub event in Russia claimed that when the lights went out,
Yeah.
several attendees suddenly had glowing eyes.
Glowing eyes. What? Were they wearing some kind of special contact lenses, or was it a prank?
Well, that's the mystery.
Yeah.
Some people think it was a staged event,
Okay.
maybe using special effects or lighting tricks.
Mm-hmm. That makes sense.
Others have speculated about more outlandish explanations,
Like what?
like bioluminescent implants,
What?
or even some sort of paranormal phenomenon.
It's one of those stories that makes you wonder if there's something else out there, something we just can't fully grasp. Now, let's circle back to two tragic cases
Okay.
that really highlight the darker side of the internet and the importance of mental health awareness. The stories of Ronnie McNutt and Isaac Cappy.
These cases are both heartbreaking and really thought-provoking.
They are.
Ronnie McNutt tragically live-streamed his suicide on Facebook in 2020,
Right.
and the video quickly went viral, despite all those efforts to remove it.
It was a horrific event that really brought to light the challenges of managing the sheer volume of content
Yeah.
that's being uploaded to these social media platforms every day.
Mm-hmm.
And it also raised those really difficult ethical questions about censorship and free speech.
It did.
And then there's the case of Isaac Cappy, an actor and musician who became increasingly entangled in that world of conspiracy theories.
Right. His story is a reminder of how easily misinformation and paranoia can spread online,
Yeah.
often leading to a really distorted view of reality.
He made those very public accusations against several Hollywood figures, claiming they were involved in all sorts of, nefarious activities.
And his behavior became increasingly erratic and unstable.
It did, and ultimately his story ended in tragedy.
It's a cautionary tale about the importance of critical thinking, seeking out credible sources of information,
Right.
and recognizing the potential dangers of getting lost in those online echo chambers.
These cases really emphasize the need for greater awareness of mental health issues.
They do.
And the importance of seeking help when struggling with, anxiety, depression, or paranoia.
Absolutely. They also highlight the need for social media platforms to take a more proactive role in moderating content
Yeah.
and protecting their vulnerable users.
It's a complex issue with no easy answers, but it's a conversation we absolutely need to keep having.
They do.
As our lives become increasingly intertwined with that digital world.
For sure.
Okay, now for a final mystery.
All right.
It's both bizarre and strangely fascinating at the same time.
Okay, let's hear it.
The U.S. government's massive cheese stockpile.
Ah, yes, the cheese case. We're talking over 1.4 billion pounds of cheese.
That's a lot of cheese.
It is. Stored in these climate-controlled caves in Missouri.
It's hard to even fathom that much cheese in one place.
I know, right? It's a legacy of those government interventions in the dairy industry back in the 1970s,
Okay.
aimed at supporting those farmers and stabilizing those milk prices.
Billions of pounds of cheese just sitting in caves. It's a pretty surreal thought.
It is.
What's the plan for all that cheese?
That is the question, isn't it? The government does periodically release some of the cheese into the market,
Okay.
but the stockpile remains enormous.
It really makes you wonder about agricultural policy, food waste,
It does.
and the long-term consequences of government intervention in the market.
It does raise a lot of questions about how we manage resources and the impact of those decisions.
It makes you wonder if someday they'll open up those cheese caves to the public and host the world's largest cheese tasting event or something.
Now, that's an event I would definitely attend.
Right.
But speaking of those government policies that have maybe some unintended consequences,
Okay, yeah.
let's wrap up our deep dive with an
Right,
expression about lotteries.
Lotteries are fascinating.
They are.
They're often marketed as a chance to win big,
Right.
maybe even escape financial hardship.
Right.
But they've also been criticized for, disproportionately targeting low-income communities
Yeah.
and exploiting people's hopes for a better life.
It's true. It's a complex issue with some real ethical implications.
It is. Do the potential benefits of those lottery revenues,
Right.
which are often used to fund education or social programs,
Right.
outweigh the potential harm to vulnerable populations? It's a question that really sparks debate about personal responsibility,
Yeah.
economic inequality, and the role of the government in regulating gambling.
It's a reminder that even those seemingly harmless activities
Right.
can have complex social and economic impacts.
And it kind of brings us back to that central theme
Yeah.
that we've been exploring throughout this whole deep dive,
Hmm.
the importance of critical thinking,
Yes,
questioning assumptions,
for sure.
and considering, all those different perspectives.
I think that's a great point to end on.
It is. We've covered so much ground today, from
Mhm.
ancient mysteries to modern-day enigmas,
Hmm.
and I really hope you've enjoyed this whirlwind tour of the unexplained and the unsolved.
It's been a pleasure diving into these mysteries with you.
Likewise.
Remember, the world is full of wonder,
It is.
unanswered questions.
Yeah.
Keep exploring, keep questioning, and never lose that sense of curiosity.
Well said. Until next time, keep those explorer hats on and keep searching for those fascinating nuggets of knowledge that make our world so intriguing.